Every time I teach the causal theory, someone accuses me of blaming parents. I want you to understand that I don't blame anybody. As a matter of fact, if you watch my YouTube channel, you will see that I am not about blaming, whether it's killers or saints. I am about trying to understand people and understand behavior. And parents were children too. So we're here to try to understand our parents, ourselves, and our parents' parents, and our parents' parents' parents, so that we can transcend and reverse any tendencies that we've been handing down for generations. I believe that babies are all born good. I'm in awe of babies, and sometimes I look at them and I even think they're inherently divine. It's what happens after we're born, in the process of life and being parented and having experiences, that personality gets formed. A particularly strong influence in our genetic design is mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are neurons that help us record the way we're treated and drive us to treat other people the same way. It's how we all learn the same language, the one that's around us. It's how we learn the same culture, the one that's around us. It's how we learn to relate to each other according to the way we're treated in our own families. It's our design, and mirror neurons and our environment create our personalities. The culture of protecting parents is older than the Bible. It's so old, it's endemic. Most of us were taught to regard our parents no matter what, but not all of us were raised this way, and some of us were actually allowed to question. And as a result, those of us who were allowed to question are a little smarter and a little more intuitive. Those of us who are not allowed to question are blindsided by the idea that anything could have been wrong with our childhood. They're enlisted for life. I've seen a lot of change in my lifetime, like racists who are blindsided by integration, misogynists by the women's rights movement, the religious right by marriage equality. We're talking about change brought about by those of us who are free to question and resisted by those of us who are afraid to question due to the way they were parented. It's time to face the ultimate prejudice between parent and child. It's a fundamental revolution to understand that who we are comes from our parenting. A whole new level of human potential awaits us. We have seen many inspired leaders born of great parenting to show us the way. Imagine the explosion of greatness and safety when we become conscious of the way we treat our children. Those of us who make the choice to parent well will raise smarter, healthier, kinder, and more charismatic children. We need to reach the adults who were once over-controlled and micromanaged, neglected, underguided, lacking dialogue and interaction. Those who had parents absent, whether they went to daycare, had babysitters or nannies. Those who were shamed and ridiculed or teased. Those who were guilt-tripped or burdened with their parents' feelings. Those who were repressed and their feelings and thoughts were forbidden. Those who were overly indulged, creating little monsters, or overly responsible, too young, making children who wet the bed, and weak adults. Some people cannot grant themselves this permission. When I was teaching a parenting class about 15 years ago, there was a young man in the class who ran to the door and stood in the doorway, appalled by what he was hearing, and he would turn and start to walk away, and then he would come back and he would listen a little more and turn and walk away, and then he would come back, and finally I asked him if he was all right, and he said, I can't hear this. I'm not allowed to hear this. I would rather believe that there's something wrong with me than wrong with my parents. And that's a dilemma that he modeled. Many of us suffer. Those of us who do not receive permission to have our own thoughts and feelings based upon our own experiences have to be less intelligent, less perceptive, and less resilient. Some are paranoid but see clearly, yet they may project onto others their expectations when the situation is actually neutral. Sometimes two people can look at the same situation and see people interacting differently. They see something different from one another. Some see the dynamics of what's going on more clearly and agree with one another about what they see, while others watching the same phenomenon will be blind and naive about what they see. If we allow ourselves to own our real history, we can reverse it. Our children can have happier and healthier marriages, and they can become leaders and innovators and problem solvers. We don't have to blame anyone. We need to understand them and ourselves.